Hello viewers, you're looking at my 1999 Kawasaki KLR250, and I just want to make a quick video, share my experience swapping the factory style CVK carburetor with a flat slide PWK style carburetor. Okay, before I get started explaining the setup and everything, I just want to make it clear that I'm not recommending anybody do this swap, because I think you're losing some safety. The original carburetor has a double throw throttle blade on it. You see it's got two holes here for two cables. You twist to open, and then actually when you twist back, you would force this back shut. If it were to get stuck, you might have a little bit of, you could put some force behind it to force it shut. The flat slide carburetor doesn't have anything like that. It's one cable. If it gets stuck, you're going for a ride. So that's my disclaimer. Not recommending you do this. So if you are going to do it, it's on your own peril. Now the reason I did it is because I don't have the original carburetor. I have this Chinese knockoff, right? And I was having some major problems with it, and I had a trip up north planned, and to get like a used unknown condition factory carburetor was like $300 on eBay. So I just needed a carburetor that was cheaper than that and was new. And I've had some good luck with these Nibbi carburetors before, so that's why I put one of these on it. So now that I have my disclaimer out of the way, you will need to buy, if you're considering doing this, you'll have to get a carburetor. Obviously, they're like $100, and like I said, I had pretty good luck with them in the past. You'll have to get a new throttle cable, because this is a factory one, and like I said, it has that double throw function to it with two cables. You just need a single cable throttle that will work with this style of carburetor, which we got the carburetor's on the motorcycle. It's a bit of a pain to get it off, but I got the picture. So that's the style that has the cable coming right in the top, and you lift up the slide. And you can find videos online, I'm sure, of like how to get that cable hooked up and everything. Okay, now this is the Nibbi PKW 32 millimeter, and it pretty much is, it's got the same diameter intake side and exhaust side on it. The only difference is it's a little bit shorter. So to get it hooked up to the air box, I had to put an extension in it. And basically, all I got in there is a 2-inch piece of an exhaust pipe that's cut to be about 1 inch long. And then I got this rubber adapter over it, which is actually like a 1.5 inch piece of like plumbing rubber. It's like an end cap. And then that holds the exhaust pipe to the end of the carburetor, so then your factory air intake boot can then hook up, and it slides over that 2-inch piece of exhaust pipe that I got in there. So that's the only tricky thing. You gotta figure out a way to extend that out about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. So 2-inch piece of exhaust pipe and some rubber hose to go over top of it is what I used. Other than that, the throttle linkage, I got this Motion Pro throttle cable setup, which I actually originally bought for the blaster because I couldn't handle that thumb throttle, and it's just a single cable. And I got the cable running right down in the factory location. Goes through here, runs beside the frame and in between the frame and the gas tank. And then it hooks up right into the top of the carburetor there. And what else? That's pretty much it. The fuel line is hooked up a lot easier than the original carburetor, but I got put a little filter on there because I've been having issues with some sediment in the bottom of the tank that gets into my carburetor and makes it run weird. So yeah, I got that fuel line. It runs over top of that coolant reservoir and over into the carburetor, and then all these vent lines are all tied up right here, and they just hang out the back where the vents for the original carburetor would have been. So pretty straightforward hookup. It really didn't take much. So the only other thing I really had to modify other than extending out that boot a little bit for the air box is if you take your seat off, which you're gonna have to, it makes it way easier to get the carburetor, you'll find this little snorkel, and that sits down inside the top of the air box. I took that out, and then behind where this snorkel goes, I had like a big 1/2-inch drill bit, and I drilled a handful of holes to try to open up because it was getting choked down pretty bad. Couldn't breathe, which if you go on the forums, that seems to be a pretty common issue with these, is the air cleaner doesn't quite breathe well enough. I got a new filter and everything in there. It's just with that extra flow you get through that carburetor, it needed a little bit more air basically. So with those two things, the performance is way up. I would say it feels 25-30% more power with that carburetor and the modifications to the airbox. The fuel mileage though isn't real good. At best I'll do like 50 miles to the gallon. Worst I'll do is like 45-ish. I know these are supposed to be getting in the 60s, I think, from the factory. So last thing I want to talk about is the tuning. I can get you a baseline that will mine's not tuned in enough yet. I bought a jet kit, but I can get you a baseline to where it'll run okay. So you got to modify that airbox, in my opinion, because I couldn't get mine to run good at all the way it was. So got a bad lighting situation, but this is the chart it comes with in the box. It's pretty useful because it'll kind of show you, if you look at these graphs, like what you're changing and what range that affects. Like this top one is the air screw, kind of from idle to mid-range. The pilot jet is kind of idle to mid-range. Main jet is mid-range to full blast, and it's got a power jet down here that's basically right at the top is where it'll affect. So what I got in there is pretty close to what the original carburetor, which I think takes the same jets if I'm not mistaken, has in it, which is a 122 main jet and a 32 pilot. So besides the poor fuel economy and the lack of safety, and the one other thing that's a little bit of a bummer is it has the styled choke. If you look at this illustration, the choke's right here, right on top of the carburetor, so you have to like reach your hand in there and pull it up, and it doesn't want to stay up. You just have to hold it up. So you can't really choke it while you're trying to kick it over. You have to. What I do is I lay over the seat, get my hand in there and pull up on the choke, and then with my other hand I'll prime the engine with the Kickstarter, and I'll just push it over a couple revolutions, and then I'll jump on and give it a good kick, and it usually takes right off. So I mean, it starts pretty good with this carburetor, and like I said, know that if you're thinking about putting one of these on, you might run into a stuck open throttle situation. Do this at your own risk. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.